He grabbed a fistful of my hair before I could even set the pan down. "Cook or get out," he said, 20 dishes. For his mother's birthday. And I hadn't even been allowed to sit down since 6 in the morning. My name is Mira, and for 11 years, I believed that if I just tried hard enough, I could earn a place in that house. I was wrong. But I didn't know how wrong until the morning of my mother-in-law's 55th birthday, when my whole life cracked open in front of 40 guests, a kitchen full of steam, and a man I used to love standing there with my hair still caught between his fingers. Let me take you back. Not to that morning. Further back. Because you need to understand how a woman ends up on her knees in her own kitchen, scrubbing turmeric stains off the floor at midnight, wondering when exactly she stopped being a person and became a function in someone else's house. I met Arjun when I was 24. He was gentle then. Or maybe I just wanted him to be. He used to bring me chai without me asking. He used to say, "Mira, you don't have to prove anything to my family." I chose you. I believed him. God, I believed him with my whole chest. His mother, Kamla, never liked me, not from the first day. I remember standing in her doorway in my wedding sari, red and gold, my hands trembling with mendi still wet, and she looked me up and down like she was checking produce at a market. "Thin," she said to Arjun in Hindi. "She won't survive kitchen work." I understood every word. I smiled anyway. That was my first mistake, smiling through it. Because smiling through it taught them that I would always smile through it. The years that followed were quiet in the way a slow leak is quiet. You don't notice the damage until the ceiling caves in. Small things first. Kamla would criticize my cooking in front of guests. Too much salt, not enough ghee, my rotis too thick. Arjun would laugh along, not cruelly, not at first. Just, he'd laugh and look away and let it happen. I told myself he was just trying to keep peace. I told myself a lot of things. By the 5th year, I had stopped correcting her. By the 7th, I had stopped speaking at dinner unless spoken to. By the 9th year, when my daughter Ria was born, I thought foolishly, desperately, that a grandchild would soften her. It didn't. If anything, it gave her one more thing to critique. You're feeding her wrong. You're holding her wrong. In my time, mothers didn't need so much rest. I want to be honest with you about something. I am not telling you this story so you pity me. I'm telling you because somewhere out there, right now, there is a woman standing in a kitchen that isn't really hers, in a marriage that stopped being a partnership years ago, telling herself it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I need her to keep listening. Because it wasn't fine. And it took me far too long to admit that now. Let's go back to that morning. The morning everything broke. Kamla's 55th birthday had been planned for weeks. Not by her. Of course, but by me. The guest list, the decorations, the sweets ordered from 3 different shops because heaven forbid one shop's barfi wasn't good enough. And then, 4 days before the event, Kamla sat me down in the living room, folded her hands in her lap like a queen granting an audience, and said, "I want 20 dishes for the dinner. All homemade, none of this store-bought nonsense." 20 dishes. I remember blinking at her, waiting for the joke. There wasn't one. "Gee," I said carefully. That's a lot for one person to cook. Maybe I could get help, or we could order some of the." "Order." She said the word like it tasted bad. On my 55th birthday. What will people say? That my daughter-in-law is too lazy to cook for her own mother-in-law. I looked at Arjun. He was scrawling through his phone on the sofa, not even glancing up. "Arjun," I said, "can you talk to your mother about Mira, please?" He sighed, the kind of sigh that told me the conversation was already over before it began. "It's one day. Just do it, okay? Don't make this difficult. Don't make this difficult." As if I was the one making anything difficult. As if I hadn't spent 11 years making myself smaller and smaller so that everyone else's difficulties could fit comfortably around me. I didn't sleep the night before. I lay next to Arjun staring at the ceiling fan turning slow circles above us, and I thought about my own mother. She passed when I was 19, before any of this began. I wondered what she would think, seeing her daughter now. A woman who used to want to become a schoolteacher, who used to argue passionately about books and politics, reduced to calculating how many kilograms of paneer she'd need for a crowd of 40. The morning came fast, the way mornings do when you've been dreading them. I was up at 5. By 6, the kitchen looked like a battlefield. Pots stacked on every surface, the smell of frying onions thick enough to taste. Ria, only 8 years old, wandered in around 7. "Mama, why are you crying?" I hadn't even realized I was. I wiped my face fast, laughed it off. "Just the onions, baby. Go get ready for school." By 9, 3 of the dishes were done. By 11, 6. Kamla walked through periodically, not to help, never to help, but to inspect. She'd dip a spoon into the dal, taste it, make a face. "Needs more cumin." She'd walk away before I could even respond. Around 1 in the afternoon, my hands were shaking from exhaustion. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't sat down. My lower back had locked into a permanent, burning ache. And that's when Kamla came in with her sister, Suda Auntie, both of them dressed already for the evening, jewelry glinting. And Kamla said, loud enough for Suda to hear, "See, this is why I told Arjun to marry a girl who actually knows how to run a household. This one. I still have to teach everything." Something in me went very quiet. Not calm. Quiet the way the air goes quiet before a storm actually breaks. "I've been cooking since 6 this morning," I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. "I haven't sat down once. I haven't eaten. I think I deserve a little more than criticism right now." The kitchen went silent. Suda Auntie's eyebrows shot up. Kamla's face changed. That particular kind of change I'd learned to fear over the years, the tightening around her mouth that meant a storm was coming. "Excuse me," she said softly. Too softly. And that's when Arjun walked in. He must have heard the last part because his face was already hard when he entered, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on me like I was the problem. Like I had always been the problem. "Mira." His voice was low, controlled, but there was something underneath it I'd never heard directed at me before. "Apologize to my mother." Now, I stood there, spoon still in my hand, 17 years of silence rising up my throat all at once. For what, Arjun? For being tired? For being human? Don't start this today. Not today of all days. Then when, Arjun? When is the right day for me to matter? I saw something shift behind his eyes, not softness, not doubt, something colder. He crossed the kitchen in 3 steps, and before I understood what was happening, his hand was in my hair, gripping hard enough that my scalp burned. My head tilted back, the ceiling light blurring above me. "Cook," he said, his voice shaking with a fury I didn't recognize. "Or get out. I mean it, Mira. Finish this. Or walk out that door and don't come back." The room was frozen. Suda Auntie had a hand pressed to her mouth. Kamla was watching with something almost like satisfaction, like she'd been waiting years for this exact moment. I didn't cry. That's the strange part. I thought I would, but I didn't. I just stood there, my scalp throbbing, staring at the man I had given 11 years of my life to, and I felt something inside me. Something that had been cracking quietly for over a decade. Finally, completely break. "Let go of me," I said. He did. Maybe he heard something in my voice. Maybe he saw something in my face. But it was too late for either of us to undo what had just happened in that kitchen. I untied my apron. My hands were steady now, steadier than they'd been all day. I looked at Kamla, at Suda Auntie, at Arjun, and then I walked past all 3 of them, out of the kitchen, out of the house, into the harsh afternoon light, with nothing but the clothes on my back and 11 years of swallowed words finally rising to the surface. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I couldn't stay in that kitchen 1 more second. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, standing on that doorstep with my heart hammering and my hair still aching from his grip, was that the next 24 hours would reveal a secret about my marriage so devastating, it would make everything that happened in that kitchen feel like the smallest part of the story. The street outside felt unfamiliar, even though I had walked it 1,000 times. My legs carried me forward without any real direction, past the sweet shop where I'd ordered the birthday mithai, past the tailor who'd stitched my wedding blouse 11 years ago, until I found myself sitting on a cold bench in the small park near our house, my whole body trembling. Not from fear anymore, but from something closer to release. I called the one person I still trusted completely, my best friend since college, Priya. She picked up on the second ring, and the moment she heard my voice, thin, cracked, barely holding together, she said, "Myra, what happened?" Talk to me." I told her everything, the 20 dishes, Kamla's words, Arjun's hand in my hair. By the time I finished, I was crying so hard I could barely breathe, and Priya's voice on the other end had gone sharp with worry. "Stay exactly where you are," she said. "I'm coming to get you right now." She arrived 20 minutes later, and the moment she saw me, hair disheveled, eyes swollen, still wearing my flour-dusted kitchen clothes, she didn't ask more questions. She just wrapped her arms around me and let me cry into her shoulder in the middle of that park. In front of strangers, in front of the whole world I no longer cared about impressing. That night, in the guest room of her small apartment, lying under an unfamiliar ceiling, I finally let myself think clearly for the first time in years. And thinking clearly, away from that house, away from Kamla's voice and Arjun's temper, felt like waking up after a very long, very heavy sleep. My phone had been buzzing for hours. Messages from Arjun ranging from angry to pleading. "Where are you? You embarrass me in front of my whole family. Myra, come home, we'll talk. Ria is asking for you." That last one nearly broke me. I called Ria immediately, and hearing her small voice ask, "Mama, are you coming back tonight?" Felt like a knife twisting somewhere behind my ribs. I told her I loved her, that I'd see her soon, and I hung up before she could hear me fall apart. It was around 11 that night when Priya's phone rang. Not mine. She looked at the screen, frowned, and answered it on speaker. It was her cousin Naveen, who happened to work at the same accounting firm as Arjun. Priya, listen, Naveen said, his voice low, hesitant, like a man carrying something heavy he didn't want to carry. I don't know if this is the right time, but I heard Meera left Arjun today. She is, Priya said carefully. Why? What is it, Naveen? There was a pause. A long one, and then he said the words that changed everything. There's something going on at the firm. Arjun's been pulled into an internal review. Some discrepancies with client funds. It's been going on for months. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but if this is about to become public, and if it affects the house, the assets, Meera should probably know before she decides anything. I sat up so fast the blanket slid off my shoulders. My heart was pounding in a completely different rhythm now. Not grief. Not humiliation, but disbelief curdling quickly into fear. What discrepancies? I asked, taking the phone from Priya's hand. Naveen, tell me exactly what you know. He hesitated again, and I could hear him choosing his words with care. Arjun's been moving money around. Client accounts, then back into a personal investment he made 2 years ago. Something that went bad. It's not confirmed yet, but the audit team found irregularities. If it comes out formally, there could be legal consequences. And Meera, if there are debts tied to that investment, they might be tied to your house too. Your names are probably both on the property papers. I felt the floor tilt beneath me, even though I was sitting perfectly still. 2 years. He'd been carrying this for 2 years. While I scrubbed his mother's kitchen floors, while I absorbed her insults so he wouldn't have to deal with the discomfort of defending me, while I told myself that our marriage, however painful, was at least stable. Stable. What a foolish word. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat by the window of Priya's guest room, watching the streetlights flicker, turning 11 years over in my mind like stones, looking for the moment I should have seen this coming and hadn't. The next morning I called Arjun myself. My voice was calm, unnervingly calm even to my own ears. I need to see the property papers, I said without any greeting. And I need to know what's happening with your job. Silence stretched on the line. Then quietly, defeated in a way I'd never heard from him before, he said, How do you know about that? Doesn't matter how, is it true? Another long pause. Meera, I was going to fix it. I made a bad investment, I panicked. I moved things around to cover it before anyone noticed. And it spiraled. I didn't want you to worry. I didn't want you to know I'd failed at something. So instead you let me believe I was the failure, I said, my voice shaking now, finally cracking under the weight of everything. You let your mother tear me apart every single day. You let yourself grab my hair in front of guests, while you were the one hiding something that could take our home right out from under our daughter. He didn't respond to that. There was nothing he could say that would undo it. I met him 2 days later. Not at the house, but at a small cafe we used to visit when we were dating, back when he still brought me chai without asking. Back when I still believed love was enough to survive anything. He looked smaller somehow, sitting across from me, his hands wrapped around a cup he wasn't drinking from. I'm sorry, he said. For the kitchen, for my mother. For all of it. I don't even know how we got here, Meera. I know exactly how we got here, I said. Every single day you chose silence over standing up for me. Every single day I let you, because I was too afraid of what would happen if I stopped. And now we're here, sitting in a cafe, talking about lawyers instead of love. He flinched. Good. I wanted him to feel a fraction of what I had carried alone for over a decade. What do you want to do? He asked quietly. I thought of Rhea, of the 8 years of her small life spent in that house, listening to her grandmother's sharp words, watching her mother grow quieter and quieter. I thought of my own mother, gone too soon, who used to tell me that a woman's silence is sometimes mistaken for peace, when really it's just war she hasn't spoken aloud yet. I want a divorce, I said. The words came out steadier than I expected, steadier than I had any right to feel. I want my daughter. And I want to build something you and your mother never once gave me. A home where I don't have to earn the right to be treated like a human being. He didn't argue. Maybe some part of him had known this was coming for a long time. Maybe some part of him even felt relief, the way people sometimes do when a truth finally surfaces after being buried too long. The months that followed were not easy. There were lawyers. There was Kamla's fury when she learned I intended to take half of what legally belonged to me. There were nights I cried alone in a small rented apartment wondering if I'd made the right choice. But there was also Rhea's ladder filling rooms that had never heard real laughter before. There was the quiet, Steady relief of cooking a meal only because I wanted to, not because I was told to. There was the strange, unfamiliar joy of eating dinner in silence and realizing the silence was peaceful, not punishing. Arjun's situation at the firm was eventually resolved. A settlement, a demotion, a debt that took years to repay. Kamla never apologized. I stopped waiting for her to. Some people spend their whole lives convinced that cruelty is simply high standards and no divorce, no revelation, no consequence will ever teach them otherwise. I let that understanding be enough. I didn't need her remorse to move forward. I only needed my own clarity. It's been 3 years now since that morning in the kitchen. Raya is 11. Sharp, tongued and confident in a way I never was at her age, and some nights when she talks back to me with all the fearlessness I never had, I feel something in my chest swell with a pride I can't fully explain. I teach part-time now, at a small school not far from our apartment. The very thing I dreamed of becoming before marriage rearranged my priorities without ever asking my permission. I think about that day often. Not with the same rawness anymore, but with a kind of distant clarity, the way you look back at a storm once you've finally reached dry land. I think about the 20 dishes I never finished cooking, about the hand in my hair, about the words that felt like the end of everything, but turned out to be the very beginning of something better. If you're listening to this, and some part of my story feels familiar to you, the smiling through insults, the silence you've mistaken for peace, the exhaustion you've convinced yourself is just what love requires, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not required to disappear in order to keep other people comfortable. You are not required to earn basic respect through endless proof of your worth. Somewhere on the other side of that door you're too afraid to walk through, there is a version of your life waiting for you to finally, fully arrive in it. I walked out of that kitchen with nothing but my breath and my fear. I built everything else, one quiet, steady day at a time.